sky.
Pain has a face. Allow me to show it to you. I am pain.
Good evening, boys, girls, ghosts, ghouls, family, and friends. Welcome to this week's episode of Sacrificial Terror Podcast. I am Sam, I am Mason, with the always beautiful, fabulous Miss
Zombie Barbie.
and my brother from another mother, Mr. Incomparable himself, Lance the Flair Wagner.
Yes.
Woo! Tonight's show is brought to you by Sacrificial Pond Productions and produced by Samantha Wagner and Miss Zombie Barbie. Tonight's show, we have the one, the only writer-director known most for Candycorn, Mr. Josh Hasty. Welcome to the show, brother.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks for being here, Josh.
Oh,
Hell yeah.
Definitely.
Thank you for having me. Yeah, I've been looking forward to it, so thanks.
Good, us too.
awesome. Hell yeah. Dude, Candycorn. Tell me about this. You wrote it, you directed it, and it's just an absolutely amazing film.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I mean, it was a almost 3-year-long journey. It's a miracle that it got done. It was a very, very small crew, no budget, and it was just an idea I had to try to make the horror film I wanted to see, to sort of inject all of my favorite things about the genre and about particular films into one original idea that I had. And yeah, and now here we are, and the film comes out in 10 days. It's pretty crazy.
Nice.
Is it going to be in
Hell
theaters?
yeah.
Yeah, it's in select theaters across the country, starting on Friday the 13th of this month.
That's badass.
Best day ever.
Yeah.
That was just a happy accident, as Bob Ross would say. That was not the plan. The plan was we were originally going to do a VOD and Blu-ray release on September 17th. And I don't know how that was dictated. That was decided by the label. But then it got a theatrical release on top of that. And that had to happen before, a week before or so, or almost a week before the VOD release. So it just sort of worked out that way.
So is it safe to say you are a Rob Zombie fan?
Oh yeah, I mean he's a friend. He's
Because we're all
mentor. Yeah.
we are all huge Rob Zombie fans.
Yeah.
That's great.
Absolutely.
That's great.
Yeah, if you follow him around with a camera for long enough, you end up you have to like him.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Nice. Because you did
I hope I get that
documentary.
opportunity.
You did a documentary, right, on 31?
Yeah, I did we started during pre-production and followed all the way through over a year of interviewing him and the whole process of making 31. And then while he was on the road I believe he was on the road with Korn, we started editing it together and then came up with a 5-hour cut that Lionsgate put out, and then cut it down to 2.5 hours so Lionsgate would put it out on a broader scale. And and then after that, he's had me come out on the road when he was on I think he was still on tour with Korn at that point, and do some stuff on the road with him. And then he became my sounding board during all the bullshit of getting Candycorn done. So,
Awesome.
Nice.
yeah.
I got his autograph back there if you can see it.
Very nice. That's fake. Sorry to tell you.
That better not be. So I was telling Rhiannon a while ago, you have a short listed in your credits called Total Skull. Is that some kind of homage to Sherry?
It's a commercial for
Is that what it is?
clothing line. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's how I got hooked up with Rob. Ultimately, I directed that commercial, and then the guy I had worked on it with was running Sherry's MySpace. If you remember MySpace,
Right.
Yeah.
And she really loved it, so she invited us out to the set of Lords of Salem for a few days when they were in Salem, and shooting at the end of that. And so that's how I sort of met them. And then Rob's bassist, Piggy D, actually, I became friends with him, and he did a logo for Haunted House that I was directing at the time. And then down the road, I ended up hooking up with Rob for 31.
Wow,
but
yeah,
the Total Skull is what started it all.
That's awesome. I have a hoodie. I have one of that's how I got the autographs. I bought a hoodie from
nice.
Sherry.
Yeah. No, it's cool stuff. It's back now, and I think Local Boogeyman actually is the one that's running it now. So.
Right. That's what Rhiannon said.
Yeah,
I have my
small
Local
world.
Boogeyman shirt on.
Yeah,
Got mine on
go.
too.
Yep.
Yeah, you got Jeff Daniel Phillips on there.
One of my favorites. I love that guy.
He's really cool.
He seems like it.
He's super nice.
Yeah, he's a great guy.
And so are we allowed to say, as far as Local Boogeyman being involved? If not, we can cut it.
Yeah,
but,
no,
okay.
for sure. Yeah, I mean, Local Boogeyman funded, when no one else would. We did a very small crowdfunding campaign that got us 2 days of production covered. Okay. I mean, it was amazing, like a lot of people came together, but you've seen the film, is very ambitious, a lot of locations, huge set designs, big name actors. And ultimately we raised just enough to cover 2 days. So that covered just the midway that you see in the movie. So we did that. And then it was about 2 years of getting dicked around by other investors and producers and sales agents. And yeah, it was just awful, like trying to get the funding for it. And we didn't need much at all. I mean, we needed peanuts. And ultimately at the end, Local Boogeyman, because we had worked together, I actually commissioned him to do a shirt for Rob that I gave to Rob as a gift.
Oh.
And that's how we met. And then, started talking over the next probably couple of years. And he wanted to get into filmmaking. He did some wardrobe stuff on 3 from Hell. And it was like right after that, we hooked up, and he gave us the money we needed to finish. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Have you seen 3 from Hell yet?
I haven't. I won't. I'm going to the world premiere next week, but I haven't. I want to see it in a theater setting.
We've had Billy Blair and Bill Oberst Jr. on the show.
Oh, nice.
And they're awesome. They were great.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. The line producer on 3 from Hell was a consulting producer on Candycorn. So right when they started shooting, I was out there meeting with him and saw the sets. And Rob and I have the same production designer. And obviously Poncho is in both films. So I've heard a lot about it, and it's going to to be awesome. I'm really excited.
We love Poncho.
Yeah, Poncho's awesome.
He's the best.
Cool.
Have you guys talked to him yet?
We tried. I've tried.
Yeah. I'll tell him to talk to you.
I'm sure he's
busy. Amazing.
That would be great. We would love to have him on the show.
Oh yeah, because we were just
He's
talking
awesome.
about that. We're like, oh, it'd be so cool to have him on.
Yeah, he's great.
Right.
I loved him in 31. I thought he was awesome in that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's how we met. He's just such a fun guy to be around, and brought so much to that character. And, we became friends after that. But just watching, Rob would throw at him like hey, I heard you speak Spanish. Why don't we do this whole scene in Spanish?
Right.
And Malcolm McDowell's there, and
Wow.
Pancho's like, it's like 100 people standing around, like camera crew and stuff, and he just did it and rocked it. So
Yeah.
I was really excited to work with him on my first, real feature, Candycorn.
Oh, hell yeah. Was he the first one that you had cast out of
Yes.
all of the big names?
He was the first one we cast, period.
Oh, okay.
So we had wanted to work on something together, and he was doing some shorts, and we just sort of would talk about ideas and stuff. But yeah, he was the first and only person we had cast for a while.
Wow.
While we did the crowdfunding campaign, and he was very instrumental in that too. I mean, him being a part of it is ultimately why Courtney Gaines came on board. They had the same manager. And then from there, PJ's friends with Courtney, and then Tony, what I thought would come on board because he loved PJ and Courtney and they're, part of the same circle. He actually was a huge fan of Pancho. And so that's what got him interested in reading the script. And I'm sure it didn't help, it didn't hurt that PJ and Courtney were involved, but he gets offered a lot of stuff. And so Pancho being involved kind of excited him, I think. But
that's badass.
All started with Pancho and like 3 other people just trying to make something.
It was a great cast. I mean,
Hell
it was
yeah.
really,
Thank you.
I really enjoyed
Thank
it.
you. Yeah, it was a dream cast for me, literally.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah.
I mean, for your first movie, I mean, right? I mean, how?
Yeah.
It's any better.
Yeah, it's absurd. And what's weird is like, people don't really believe this, but like how it happened, getting them was insane because I wrote the parts for them. So like Tony Todd, when I wrote Bishop Gate, that was Tony Todd. And so same thing with PJ. So what happened was I showed Justin Mabry, who did all the special effects and created the Jacob mask. And he's an executive producer. When I showed him the script, I was like, hey, imagine PJ Souls in this character. Like that's the type of person I want to cast. Never thinking that would actually happen, because we didn't have money to pay the guy I'm telling this to, let alone an icon like PJ. But then that changed everything because he was like, well, Ben from Fright Rags, who's a friend, knows PJ. So why don't we see if he'll pitch it to her. And that's how Ben Scribbins became an executive producer and showed it to PJ. And so at that point I was like, well, let's try to get Tony. I wrote the part with him in mind. Let's see what happens. And it wasn't easy just to get him to read the script. But once he did, we were on the phone like the next day and he was super excited and just, they're aware of the fact that they're icons, but not in a sense of like, they're not arrogant. They're not hard to work with. Like, they just know that they're bringing a lot to the table, but they also bring a professionalism and just, so much care and interest in the script and in the characters.
So people know PJ Souls is Linda from Halloween. I mean, this is an iconic. Yeah. This is probably as big as it gets. Rock and Roll High School and Stripes and Carrie. I mean, all these movies. She's very iconic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. She wasn't doing a lot. We had Ben really had to convince her to even read the script because she's an icon. She can go to conventions and just.
Right.
I mean, we went to Horror Hound. We had our first sort of sneak peek screening of Candycorn at Horror Hound in Cincinnati in March of this year. And PJ, Tony, and Courtney were all guests there.
Wow.
And PJ's line was just, out the door and around the block all weekend long. People, and then she could do that every single weekend. And she kind of does whenever she wants to. So it was a feat to get her to look at the script, to consider it, but she loved it and loved the character and trusted, you know, because of my relationship with Rob, because she was in Devil's Rejects.
I was going to say, was that the reason? Was that probably the last one she had done, right? The last movie she had done, maybe?
I don't know. I'd have to look and see, but it's definitely, you know, she was in it for a couple minutes, and it's still
with
like
Sid Haig with Captain Spaulding.
Yeah, she told me like she signs pictures of that all day long. Like it's just one little role, but the fans love it so much.
Yep.
But yeah, no, she was amazing. They were all amazing. I couldn't have been happier with the cast.
That's so cool. So it was like your dream cast. Everybody you wanted.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah. I mean, Tony is in all my favorite things, starting with the Candyman to X-Files, The Crow. I mean, those three alone, like it hardly gets better than that for me.
That is so cool.
Yeah. And it was just so awesome. Like he just was, they're all method actors, the main characters. And I'm what Pancho refers to as a method director, because I don't call anyone by their name. I call them by the character's name.
Oh, cool.
And as soon as we get on set, I want to create that world, you know, and I want, like, I'm not pleasant about it. Like, I don't fuck around. Like, if you are on set, like, that's your character. And so it was cool for me because I have to stay in that mindset. Because if I start, I'll wig myself out. You know, if I start thinking like, holy shit, it's Tony Todd.
Right.
You know, like you can get in your own head, and no matter how cool and collected you are, like that could kind of wig you out on considering the pressure you're under.
And he needs you to direct him. I mean,
yeah,
right?
exactly. He knows he's Tony. Like he's
right.
You know, the Tony he isn't the Tony that I have seen on TV. So it's like, you're a director, you're a professional. And so, you know, I don't get too caught up in that, but I just, right out of the gates, I'm just like, I'm just going to treat everybody as if they're the characters, and that in my head would have created this ongoing world, and it did. And so, you know, it was cool because everybody always asked me like, what was it like to work with them? And I really don't know, because I never, like, I talk to them all the time now, and like they're friends now, and we're doing all these shows together. And so I kind of get those moments now where I'm like, cool, Tony Todd just texted me happy birthday, you know?
Oh, that's
but
so cool.
While we're on set, it's like, it's Bishop. And he actually gave me shit at one point because he was trying to improv stuff. And I was just like, no, that's not how it goes. It's like this.
Wow. And
it's in the behind the scenes documentary, I think. And he just kind of laughs and he's like, oh, okay. You know, because it's like he's worked with all these huge directors and films, but he loved it. And afterwards he told me, he's like, you don't give a fuck. Like, you have it in your head, and that's that. And, you know, in hindsight, I'm like, man, that could have really backfired. And Courtney would push back a lot, because Courtney, we went through a lot of shit to get this movie done. And he was a producer from almost day one. And so if I started telling him like how to articulate words, because I have all of it in my head, you know, how the characters sound and what they say.
Crazy. That's weird.
He would just like, you know, he was the only one that would really push back, but in a good way. I mean, because he cared. He really gave a shit about the character. And yeah, so it's weird. It's like when I look back, I don't, now that I know them all personally, it's hard for me to even picture like PJ on set, because it was Marcy. And it was this character that was in my head. I mean, I designed her haircut. I did 99% of the wardrobes myself. Wow. And it was all manufactured in my head and then into reality with these hands and the help of a few, you know, very dedicated and very patient crew members. And then it was just like, you know, for however long I had with that person, I was with that character. And so, yeah, I don't know. It's bizarre.
Hey, before I forget real quick, when I was checking the name, just so I would remember all the names, I saw Bishop Gate.
Yeah.
So that just jumped out like right away. I went, okay, I know he wasn't a religious person in the movie. So I started to investigate, and I put Bishop Gate in search, and about the only thing that really come up was an apartment complex in Ohio. And I go, look and see where the film was done, and it was done in Ohio. So I'm like going, where'd the name come? I'm like, I got to ask him where the freaking name comes from.
Yeah. You're the first person to ask. Well, Tony asked, but yeah, it's actually, so I'll preface with this. Every single character in the movie is named after something important to me, whether it's a film, a character from a TV show, and in Bishop Gates' case, it's from a Beatles song. Off of Sgt. Pepper. It's called The Benefit of Mr. Kite. And
gotcha. I know it well.
Yeah, it's,
that's awesome.
He mentions Bishop. It's actually Bishop's Gate in the song. But I named him Bishop Gate after. I
wonder if that's where the apartment complex got that name from, too. You know?
Yeah, probably.
I just thought it was so weird. They were both in Ohio. I was like going, there's got to be some kind of connection, you know?
Yeah, no, that's the Beatles.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
That's cool. Dang.
Yeah.
Kind of ciphered something out, you know?
Yeah. I'm glad you asked that. There's so many Easter eggs, and it's funny, like the names, the places, you know, the names of like the restaurants and everything in there is 100% Easter eggs that I hoped wouldn't be like, you know, glaringly obvious, and they're not. So far from what I've done a lot of interviews and Q&As and stuff, and so far no one has been like, you just ripped off everything from the 1967 to 1993 in pop culture or horror. But
it's an homage. It's an homage.
It is.
Anyways.
Yeah, and it's cool for me because I mean I grew up like, you know, watching all these things, and I study these films and shows, and so there's a ton of X-Files and Twin Peaks stuff. There's Rosemary's Baby references all through it. Rosemary's Baby is my favorite of all time.
Just watched it.
Yeah, I just watched that last week.
Did you?
All these years I've never seen it, and this is the first time I watched it. Yeah.
Did any of the names or anything stand out in Candycorn from?
You saw it after you saw Candycorn, right?
I saw it after I saw Candycorn, but I didn't correlate anything.
Good.
What names was it? So since you mentioned
the big one, I haven't, you know, I'm not like going out and just saying it because I want people to see if they can figure it out. But but since you asked, I'll tell you, there's a ton, but the main one that people can't believe is that they didn't realize is Sheriff Bramford.
I was just going to ask.
Courtney Gaines' character. Yeah. Bramford is the name of the apartment that Mia Farrow lives in, and that's where the whole movie takes place. Is the Bramford, or the Black Bramford as they call it.
Right.
Now that you say it, I can picture the sign in the movie.
Yeah, so Guy and Rosemary live there next to the Castevets, and there's all kinds of references there. But yeah, the Bramford is Mr. Bramford, Sheriff Bramford.
So cool.
See, I was stuck at the hospital watching on my phone, worried about my wife, you know, and I'm trying to take it all in, and now I need to get a copy of it so I can watch it and really pick it apart, you know.
Yeah, there's a lot in there, and that was my goal. I wanted it to be something that you watched and enjoyed, and it seemed like it was just at the surface and was fun. But I always loved movies and music too that. It's in paintings, any type of art that just seems like, okay, I get it, but you kind of know like there's something else there, you know, that maybe you aren't getting. And, you know, it's like that's how like all of John Carpenter's stuff is to me. Right. And that's how like the Beatles are, and really, really great bands are always that way. It's just like, cool, I get it. And then once you start to really listen to it more and more, you're like, wait a second, I never noticed that before. Or like, you know, Margot Rothko's paintings, you know, with like just the smudges, like what I have behind me. It's like, it's simple, but the more you stare at it and the more you sort of invest into it, there's more there.
Right.
And so that was my goal there. And one of the sort of, you know, things that I used to implement that theory, which is what it was until it, you know, actually comes out, is naming things like I just said, and dropping little Easter eggs. And, you know, that was part of it. And then the other part was just, you know, doing what Hitchcock did all the time, which is not answering all the questions. So there's all these scenes where it's like, I give you just enough. And then you're like, well, what was Bishop talking about there? Why didn't he, what's going on here? and it's a fine balance. And I wasn't sure how that was going to be received, but so far people seem to be taking it pretty well. So
it's a lot of fun. If Sam hadn't dropped off, he probably would have said, "Let's do a contest."
Yeah, where'd he go?
His phone kicked him out. Did it die though? Because I don't think it died.
It died.
It did?
Sam just said it died.
100% charged and then just died.
Yeah, so it was 100% charged and just dropped.
Freaking cell phone
technology.
Freaking sucks.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow. So Local Boogeyman had a small part in it too, right? He was like the wolf boy or wolf.
Yeah, he's just like in a tent, just playing in a music box. It's not like there's no lines or anything.
Yeah.
It's just it's a fun little. We didn't have any extras. I mean, it was just we were literally using crew, and so when they're like sitting around the like the scene where he's in the tent.
Mm-hmm.
And then when they're sitting around, when Dr. Death is giving his speech, like all that's just literally just whoever can come around and put on some wardrobe, just send them to the wardrobe trailer. And that's what we did with pretty much all of our extras for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
So do what you got to do, when you don't have any money.
Yeah. Well, it turned out fucking amazing. That was the same with Cherokee Creek. Remember, he was saying that too, that they had the same issue. They would just use whoever was on the crew, and
they took a guy, they kidnapped a guy and had a bag over his head, and when they got him to the van, so like they stopped action or cut, so they come back to it 2 or 3 days later, the guy wasn't available, so one of the main guys, they had to wear the bag on their head, just do what you got to do.
Yeah, there's one guy named Aaron who came out to be an extra the first time we shot in LA. People don't realize, unless you've heard me talk about it or you watch like the making of or listen to the commentary on the Blu-ray, we shot this thing. We shot 2 days in LA, June of 2017. Bunch of bullshit happened. Shot 4 days in Ohio in November.
Dang.
Bunch of bullshit happened. Shot a few more days in Ohio almost exactly a year later to the day, and then finished the film in LA in December, just recently of 2018.
Holy shit! It takes so long.
Yeah, well, it took us long because of all the bullshit I had to deal with investors and the sales agents and all that stuff. So, really, we had one producer at the beginning that was supposed to fund the whole thing after the crowdfunding sort of was more modest than we expected. And he was supposed to have the money ready by the following fall. So we should have had it all shot 2017. But like weeks before, Courtney was like, what the hell's going on? Is the money in escrow? And I've never done this, I don't know what the fuck, money in escrow. I didn't know what the hell he was talking about at the time. I was like, he says he's going to have the money. Courtney's like, well, how do we know he's going to have it? Well, he said he was going to. Why would someone lie? I was very naive in 2017, but he didn't deliver anything. Courtney ended up like 2 weeks before raising just enough to shoot those few days. And so people ask me like, why didn't you just wait until you had it all? But we couldn't because, the other thing I learned is contracts don't mean shit. People will break contracts left and right, and they do in Hollywood all the time.
Oh yeah. So
it's like, we all kind of thought like, all right, this dude he's going to do it. And when he didn't, we already had locations, we had sets built, we had cast, everything. It's like, so at that point we were like, well, what can we shoot for this little bit of money that Courtney put up basically through one of his friends that invested. And then, so we decided we'll shoot just the exteriors in Ohio. That way we can have all the fall time stuff. Mm-hmm. And then at that point, hopefully we can raise the rest of the money to do the rest of it, which essentially we did. And that's when Local Boogeyman came in, because essentially even though it was a year, we did raise enough to shoot the rest of it, but we did it in 2 parts because the circus was in LA. And you know, we can't get that circus anywhere else, and you can't get the aesthetic that we got in Ohio and LA. So, you know, that's what we had to do.
Okay. What I remember, it was seamless.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
I'm being serious, not just because you're on the show. I would have had no idea it took that long to make that movie.
Yeah.
It's seamless.
We were very, you know, that was stressful to get it that way. And it started with working with my DP on getting screenshots, you know, because I edit the whole movie myself. So I was able to just, in between these lulls, I was editing the whole time. And so I could take screenshots of everything and show him this is exactly what the lighting looked like. And then we had an amazing gaffer that came on the second half, the final part of the shoot. And he watched all the clips I edited. He like studied where the light was coming from. That way it all matched when we went back to LA and back to Ohio a year later. But then the big thing on top of that was my fiance color grades everything. So it was going through and like, you can have the lights in certain places, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to match. So she spent a lot of time matching. Like, for instance, there's a shot, I won't give it away what happens, but if you remember at the end of the movie, Mike is in the midway and the cop car pulls up and something pretty epic happens. So, and this is all, I have stories like this for days that are on the Blu-ray bonus features. So if you like this kind of stuff, definitely get the Blu-ray.
I'm going to get it.
But it's, so he's in the midway. We shot that in September 2017. Now, we could not afford a cop car there. So I told everyone, we're just going to shoot that when we come back to the circus. We'll set everything up and we'll shoot the cop car later because we'll have more money. Well, we ended up not being able to do that. So we had to shoot the cop car arriving in Ohio a year later. So in the movie, you see Mike in the midway. And what I ended up doing was renting just the light bar that's on the red and blue lights.
Right.
Oh,
you can just rent those in LA. You can rent anything. So we rented those for like $100. And so the lights would be flashing on him. But every time it cuts to the car.
Okay.
So every time it cuts to him in the midway, it's just him looking at a minivan, like our crew van, with the headlights from that.
That's awesome.
And then the light bar on. And then when it cuts to what he's looking at, that's a year later in Ohio, and it's the actual cop car.
No
So
freaking
it's just
clue.
cutting those. But like the big thing is like, we can match that lighting and do that the best we can. And it's just all like, that's the type of shit that I had to deal with, of thinking like, just thinking on my feet and how do we do this? But then what Lindsay would do was like, the headlights on a minivan aren't the same color temperature as this, you know, early 70s headlights. So it's changing those colors. And I mean, just putting so much fucking work into this thing, man. I can't even explain.
That's crazy.
That's
but
really smart of her to think of that the headlights.
Yeah,
are
it really is.
color.
Yeah. Cause that's type of stuff like you know, stuff on this budget, if you want to even call it a budget, you just don't think about that stuff. And we never looked at it as low budget though. You know, I mean, we had an Academy Award winning makeup team that did all the special effects, that did it as a favor, because they just wanted to work on something fun and what they used to do.
That is cool.
So in that sense, that's why we approached everything the way that we did, because while we had no money and we were running around like crazy and freezing our asses off at all times, and you know, early winter in Ohio and whatever, we always, all the way through post-production, I mean, like stuff like that, and there's stories like that for days, but we always treated it like it's not some bullshit low budget thing. Like this is, it's Candycorn, and that means something epic to us.
Right.
Yeah.
So that was the mindset for pretty much everybody. And if it wasn't your mindset, you didn't last long. I had an amazing producer on set, Matt O'Neill, that just really believed in my vision and what I wanted to do. And there were a couple times where like people did treat it like people would say like, yeah, well, you're not paying me my full rate, so you're not going to get my full attention.
Oh shit!
Wow.
And they weren't there the next day. I would just give Matt a look.
Yeah.
And be like, okay,
yourself.
get that fucking asshole out of here.
Man.
Like, you know, because you have 50 people And if you have, enough of that, it's a breeding ground for just negativity and just, all right, go work on something and get your full rate then. I don't know what the hell you're doing here, So that was the mentality all the way to the finish line. And that's why we wrapped, I believe it was December 15th or 18th of 2018. And then we had a finished final cut that screened at Horror Hound March 15th.
Wow.
And I scored the whole movie with my friend Michael Brooker. So it was just like, while I was scoring in Austin, Texas at his studio, Lindsay was here. Is that where you are?
Well, I'm in Texas. I'm a Longhorn fan.
Nice.
My daughter went to A&M for a little bit, but I'm a Longhorn fan.
Nice. Yeah, he has a studio there, and I would write stuff while we were filming. I would send it to him, and then he would beef it up with orchestration and other instrumentation. We just kind of bounced stuff back and forth. So while I was there doing the final score and the final Foley mix, Lindsay was back here in Ohio at our home studio color grading and sending me, hey, what do you think about this stuff for approval? And then it was just madness. And then I came back, I think I was back home for 4 weeks, and I put the final cut together. And what we screened at Horror Hound, the only thing I changed was the Gus character. People were laughing so hard in the screening that they were laughing over his following lines. They couldn't hear what he was saying. So, cause he's just hilarious. So that was the only thing I changed. And then that cut is what Epic Pictures bought and is putting out next week.
Awesome.
And so
Wild
he was
stuff.
the Greasy Strangler, right?
Yeah. Sky Elabar. Yeah. The Greasy Strangler.
He did the, I was telling Rand before you came on, he did the stunts for Rainn Wilson, another Rob Zombie guy, in The Rock.
Did he?
Almost positive.
Oh, really?
Because they have the same exact look.
Yeah.
You saw them in the crowd, you think they're the same person. Yeah. In the movie.
Yeah. No, he was awesome. He wasn't easy to get either. He was friends with Poncho. They worked together, I think, at the Actors Studio, or maybe they just knew each other. I'm not sure, but Poncho read the script and he was like, "Man, I've got the perfect guy for Gus. Like, he's the greasiest, grossest dude. He's an amazing actor."
That's awesome.
I mean, how you think Sky Elabar is, that's how Sky Elabar is.
Wow.
Like, you just can't be in a bad mood when you're talking to this guy. He's just, he's awesome.
I think I read that on your Instagram about you.
So we were also, her and I having a debate. If you had to say there's a superstar of the movie, if it's Poncho or if it's Courtney, who would you say is the absolute? I mean, I kind of have a feeling you're gonna say Poncho now, but we kind of agree that Poncho was like the star of the movie.
Yeah, no, definitely.
He
is. I mean, it's and Courtney says that all the time. It's Poncho's movie, and
Courtney's in it a lot. He's in a lot.
He starts the second act starts with a shot of Courtney in the cop car, and then he's in
majority of it from there. Right?
80% of the film from there. But Courtney was a producer, and he never got egotistical about like wanting to have screen time. It was always about the film being as good as it could be. He believed in it from day one. And there was actually, so like, I don't really let the actors improv a whole lot. Not because I don't want them to, but mainly because we didn't really have time. And I run these lines so much in my head, and I have exactly what they say and how they say it. So I'll let them sort of do their thing, but then I'll say like, all right, well, let's try it this way if I'm not really feeling how they do it. And there was a lot of stuff that Courtney's character had in the film that he actually had me cut out. And his reasoning was that Poncho's character should be the one that has these big epic speeches. And if we had both of them, it would be a dueling, like, gotcha. who's the main, who are we rooting for? Who's the main one here? And he knew that I really wanted the audience to root for Dr. Death. It's all about him. I want you to want, this is a film for the freaks, for people like us,
Exactly.
It's a film that you you feel for Sheriff Bramford because he's a real guy, but at the end of the day, it's like, you know, you feel more for Jacob and Dr. Death and all these hoodlums who are just minding their own business and just trying to make a living, and the normal people come in and fuck it all up for them. And this little guy's tired of it, man. He's not gonna put up with it anymore. And so that was a conversation Courtney and I had a lot about cutting a lot of his stuff back to where you didn't really side with him too much. You know, we don't want you to know too much about him.
And once again, another horror icon. I mean, he's literally, you know.
Yeah, he's Malachi.
He's freaking
Children of the Corn.
Scared the shit out of your kid.
And he doesn't have a shitty attitude. I mean, that's got to be like something to really embrace. I mean, that's really awesome.
Yeah, no, it's great. I mean, you know, it was just great to have them believe in it, you know, for PJ to come out of virtual retirement, if you want to call it that. For Tony, you know, Tony to call me up and was just like, you know, I'll do it under these circumstances. And his circumstances were like, I want to collaborate on the character. You know, I want to have say and, you know, like he wanted the character to be an idiot savant. So he didn't, his two requirements was 3, but I can't say what the third one is yet. But the 2 were, he wanted to have something done. You know, he didn't want to just be Tony Todd. He wanted to have something subtle done with his face. So Justin Mabry did the cleft palate prosthetic on him, and we did the eye patch. So he's happy with that. And then the other thing was he didn't want it to just be big, scary Candyman. You know, he wanted to play it sort of slow and reserved, and he was in it a lot more on the script. But as we talked again, it was like, you know, and I know people are going to be pissed about that. Like certain people are going to be like, why isn't Tony in it more? But it was a deliberate creative choice to say, like, it's not about just saying, look, we have all these icons. Isn't that cool? It's about the story. And the story is about Jacob Adkins, and it's about Lester, Dr. Death, and their relationship. And if you replace Tony Todd with any other actor, you wouldn't be bitching, because Bishop Gate plays the role he needs to play in this particular story.
Right.
But because he's a big name, people think it's like, I mean, you know, I don't know. So I loved that. And I love that about Courtney too, you know, where they weren't, you see that with new actors where it's like, I want more lines. Can you give me more lines? Or can I have another scene? And then you have these veterans who are like, no, that doesn't serve the story. The story we need to focus on this right now.
That's awesome.
So that was another big learning experience for me, of like the difference between actors who give a shit about the story versus ones who just want material for their reel.
Can you see as your career will progress, will you see kind of doing the thing that Rob Zombie did, like bring the older? I don't want to step on anybody's toes and say the wrong thing here. Not necessarily forgotten actors and actresses, but just that hadn't had a whole lot of work up to when he brought them back in. Can you see doing that? Like you'll reach out to maybe some people that aren't working as much, or?
I don't know. Not deliberately. I mean, I wanted Tony and PJ and Courtney because they were a part of 3 of the most important films to me.
Gotcha.
And they were actors that, as I started creating these characters, they were the actors that came to mind. And I can say, you know, I would never speak for Rob, but I can say, you know, I don't think he does that just to say, I'm giving this person a career again, you know. Look who's back. But
he made it. He's Colleen now.
Yeah. I am Colleen. I had to switch my unfortunately I had to use somebody else's computer because my phone took a shit while we were talking.
It's not unfortunate you're back.
Right?
It's great.
I was not expecting that.
I didn't mean that. You were saying
okay, hang on a second.
Yeah, it's all good. I think I will say there are actors that I love that probably are most known for their stuff that they did in the 70s or 80s that I would love to work with.
Okay.
But yeah, I think it would be, I don't know, it'd probably be pretty pretentious of me to say, yeah, I'm going to give some of these guys a career again. You know?
Yeah, I didn't want to make it sound like, I wasn't trying to make it sound like that at all, I swear.
I know, yeah.
You know, because I love that Rob's done that, actually, you know.
Yeah, no, it's great. I think it is awesome. And you know, I think there's a reason that we know and love those people. There's a reason we know PJ Souls, and
they're like family. They really are like family.
Her character in Halloween.
You know?
Yeah, no, absolutely. We grew up with them, and we, you know, we fell in love with horror films because of what they did in horror films.
Right.
And, you know, PJ, Tony, and Courtney are 3 of them, but there's a long list of people that I would love to work with. But as Courtney, PJ, and Tony will tell you, I also don't want to do that just because they were those people. I mean, I had phone calls with each of them to talk about the character and make sure this was going to work. Because for me, even though I'm like, you know, a first-time filmmaker and am lucky to have them in my films, I don't want it to suck, you know? So it's like, I was completely prepared for if Tony Todd just didn't give a shit and was like, yeah, I'm Tony Todd, I'll show up and do what I do and you'll like it and whatever. Right. I mean, I told my producers, like, I'm not going to do it. That obviously wasn't the case. He's one of the greatest people ever. And, you know, I love every moment that we got to work together. But I think, you know, I forgot about this, but there was one person that is an icon that I did talk to that you might be able to beat it out of one of the producers or one of the other actors. I won't say it, but I set up a call with them to play a character, and they literally, I got on the phone with them and they said, "You've got 10 seconds, sell me on your idea, go."
Wow.
And I was like, okay. I'm like, all right. So I start talking, and I can't talk in 10 seconds. I just can't do it. I have too much to say. And he goes, "You're losing me. You're losing me." And I'm just like, what the fuck is this guy's problem? And so I was like, all right. And so I just, you know, did my pitch, and he was like, all right, well, I think he said something about, like, you know, something about Rob Zombie, and like, you know, well, if I do this, is there a chance you think Rob might cast me in something?
Oh.
Like, no, it's definitely probably not a chance there. He probably would have maybe casted you, or if he wants to cast you, maybe he will. This has nothing to do with Rob Zombie. You realize that, right? And he got pissed off. And he was like, well, I know that, but I thought, you know, if I'm going to help you out, you could help me out.
Oh,
I was just
wow.
like, oh. And so we hung up, and I called Courtney, and I was just like, yeah, fuck him. There's a reason he hasn't worked since the 70s, and this
Are
is
you
why.
serious?
Yeah.
He hadn't worked,
like,
and he was like that?
Well, just bullshit stuff. Yeah. I mean, and it's someone you can go to these conventions, and he's at 90% of them, probably with, you know, a decent line or whatever. But it's like, that's the attitude of some of them. But then it's like, PJ, her fucking line is to the next city, and
she was still gracious.
She's the most amazing person ever. So it's, yeah.
Now, by the time this airs, the movie will be out. Was that a Twin Peaks? Was she a Twin Peaks? Okay, I thought so.
Yeah.
When you said that, I was like, she has to be a Twin Peaks.
Yeah.
No, that's got to be.
Yeah, she was very, very influenced by Lucy, the dispatch in Twin Peaks Sheriff's Station.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And what's funny,
you can have a contest now, Sam. Another contest with Josh. He's got tons of Easter eggs in his movie.
Oh yeah.
Candycorn's basically just one big sci-fi horror Easter egg wrapped up in a classic slasher story with some very prominent Dean Cundy influenced cinematography.
Awesome. Right.
That's how I would describe it.
Your cinematography was absolutely spot on. It was gorgeous.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I work with a cinematographer on, you know, obviously the designing the lighting and getting it right, and he was very patient with me. But yeah, I mean, I have every shot planned out, and I storyboarded everything myself because it's very important to me. Cinematography is very, very important to me, and I didn't want to just, you know, I'm sure he would have done a great job if I just said, do your job, but I didn't want to do that. You know, I wanted it to be shot the way I wanted it to be shot. And so, so, I mean, you'll see and I keep referencing it, but the behind the scenes documentary on the Blu-ray goes in. I mean, you see all of this, like very, very precise and locked down. And it's not necessarily inspired by any one thing. I mean, you know, obviously Kubrick comes to mind anytime you're setting your camera up, at least for me. But, you know, and John Carpenter too, like all of his stuff with Dean Cundey. You know, it's just.
Did he do Halloween 3 as well? Do you remember?
I don't know if he did Halloween 3. Halloween 3 is a touchy subject for me. So
good or bad? Good or bad?
Man, I mean,
come on, Josh.
Really put me on the spot here. I mean, it's a great little Halloween film on its own, and I get that. Like at the time, it was like we can't do 3 of the same thing. I totally get that, but I'm not like there's a and maybe you guys are a part of this, but there's a culture of people who are like love Halloween 3 like it is a part of the franchise.
Yeah, no. I like it as a standalone, yeah.
It's a standalone thing.
Right.
It's its own thing. It's cool. Everybody loves Tom Atkins. It's like it's cool, man. But you know,
so you don't hate it. You don't hate it.
I don't hate it. No, I hate like I get in conversations. People are like, "No, it's a part of the pantheon." No, it's not. You want to know why? Because Michael Myers isn't there. Do you remember him? Like,
yeah.
You know, it just I don't know.
We're going to try to do an anthology. They're not anthology. They're going to try to do a series, like a different Halloween movie, and everybody was like, "This sucks. Bring back Michael Myers."
Yeah. I mean, that's you know, but that kicked down the door for filmmakers like me to be able to do what I just did. You know, it's like it opened up a genre entirely. But yeah, I mean, my point of that is I'm not deliberately trying to say like this is how Dean Cundey would do it or this is how Kubrick would have done it. It's just years and years and years of watching that stuff and having it, you know, ingrained into my subconscious mind. And then when I do set something up, it's like, well, here's a kid riding a bike, beautiful fall foliage. I want him to seem, you know, not small and meek, but not powerful and big. And so the camera should be here. And, you know, the music, and I because I write most of the music, I'm like, all right, this is what's going to be playing. And I'm listening to the music while I'm shooting 90% of the time. Cool. So every shot, like, that's why I was able to edit so fast, because I would go to my hotels at night. We'd shoot 12 to 14 hours and I would go home and just try to cut everything I could before I passed out, because it was still fresh and exciting. But yeah, I appreciate you saying that about the look of it, because that's in addition to the cinematography. Lindsay, my fiance, who color graded everything, we spent a lot of time with the look of it and mimicking film stocks. And I actually composited actual Kodak film stock grain into every single shot. And so I would study how that grain would react in low lights and highlights and midtones. And the whole movie, you know, the entire film, I went through frame by frame. This is after Horror Hound. That was like really the only thing I really changed aside from the Gus stuff, but just went through and tried to just like make sure every shot looked how I wanted it to look, and how I wanted to look was not digital, but it wasn't archival. You know, it wasn't like, I love House of the Devil, but like House of the Devil deliberately looks like an old film. Yeah. I didn't want that, because I didn't want people to feel like they were watching something from a time capsule. Right. And so it was getting the colors right. How do the colors react to, you know, on certain film stocks? And then what does the grain do? And it creates this warmth. And all of that. I mean, it's so much freaking work. So it's nice to.
How many times did you see the movie?
Oh, I've seen it. I mean, I can't even count. I can't even count. I literally like would watch it all the way through, and I have notebooks just for myself of like, turn the grain down 6% there. Wow. We shot everything in the 2:40 aspect ratio, which I loved and I thought was perfect for this film. But even when we shot that in it, when I'm looking at my monitor, there's the black bars at the top and the bottom, but there's still footage being shot under that. I don't want to see it, but it's still there. And sometimes when we're, you know, shooting on the fly like that, we can frame up as much as we want, but there's still like the framing might not be completely perfect. So like the shot at the very end of the movie when we're dollying in on Dr. Death talking to the girl in the tent, I literally went through and reframed and resized and just sort of redid that dolly shot. So it was a lot of that. I would make notes on where I wanted to do that. I've over 100 times I've seen this movie, because I've had to watch it through all the color grading changes, through my edits, through all the scoring. It's just madness.
That's great.
Oh,
that's great.
cool.
Yeah. And I still like it.
Whereas with my film, I'm doing it, directly in 4K. So,
yeah,
but I want it to have that new feel. I want it to have that extreme clarity because the special effects that we're doing are all done in house, so I want the details that you see to really grab you and make you think it's more of a snuff film than it is a horror film.
Yeah. That's the beautiful thing about it. Yeah.
Natural.
Yeah, I mean, we shot Candycorn in 4K, and I degraded the shit out of it to make it not look that way. But and I'll shoot, I the producer I had on Candycorn, I hope to work with on everything, and we're currently in the development phase for my next film, and it's going to be shot on film, and I hope to only shoot on film because I worked so fucking tirelessly to get Candycorn to look like film, but I think I'm pretty good at it. And I worked with some top people that work on some huge movies in LA that helped me sort of figure out how to do that. Mm-hmm. You can't beat the film look for the style that I want. But yeah, I mean, some people, the story they're telling needs to be told digital and modern looking. But I want Candycorn will most likely I've got about 4 movies right now that I'm working on the scripts and kind of my plan to get done over the next several years. Candycorn's probably the cleanest looking of them. Wow. I mean, they'll all have my look, the very composed and hopefully, beautiful, as you said, look to it. But I just love the film grain, man. I just love that, the texture to it, especially with the characters that I like to work with,
Poncho is just so, he demands your attention. I mean, I love that about him.
Yeah.
You really zone in on him,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That was a lot of work. I mean, he came in originally very over the top, sort of how he is on stage in the movie. And, I didn't want to tell him how I wanted the character first. I want him to do his thing and then critique it or just, sort of give my feedback. But I have the character in my head 100%. And when he came out and first started doing it, like when he would do just like normal dialogue, it would be like crazy Dr. Death. And I was just like, yeah, man, that's not going to work. This is a real guy. Dr. Death starts and ends on stage. Outside of that, he's Lester. He's a real human being. And that's why Bishopgate calls him that, and is the only one that calls him that. No one calls him Dr. Death that knows him in the real world. That's just this character. Gotcha. And so we talked about that a lot and just kept combing back on this, eccentric, over the top character and making him a real person. And so a lot of the jokes and remarks that he says in there, like some of that shit that I've said to people, and I just wanted to put it on film, so it's there forever. And he loved that, and you'll see that in the behind the scenes documentary. There's times where like he'll be like saying something like, "What if?" Like especially when he's like patronizing Sheriff Bramford, and I'll just say like, "Why don't you do this?" And like my direction to him every time he's talking to Sheriff Bramford, every time my direction was treat him like he's your dog, like he's your puppy. And it's just like, like, oh, come on, buddy. What's going on? Do you want this? You want, like, oh, cheer up. And the second he's not interested, flip and make us think like, oh, shit, this guy's not funny. He could, like, this dude's fucked up. Right. So Poncho just nailed that. So he could go from like shrunken head, to just like, stop, just anything for you, Sam. And just has this look where you're just like, oh, God, this guy is no good. but he does that so many times, like in the trailer, you know, when he's like, you know, patronizing him and hazing him about, you know, I'm sure you've been turned down by better looking guys than Jacob. Like, and you just see in Courtney, and again, they're method actors. So Courtney's like, he's getting pissed, like really pissed. And a lot of stuff I would not tell Bramford what Dr. Death was going to say or do. So he would be kind of shocked and caught off guard. And it just, yeah, I just love it. They're all so freaking great. It was awesome.
We're going to push the hell out of that movie.
Oh, hell yeah.
No, thanks.
We're going to push the lot.
Well, thank you.
Yeah,
Big time.
that was awesome. So your next movie, when are you planning on starting to put into production?
I don't know yet. I mean, right now my main focus is obviously the Candycorn trail. I mean, like I said, I leave this Thursday to do Son of Monsterpalooza. And then it's just the world premiere the week after that, and then just nonstop, all the way through close to December. I'll be doing Q&As and panels and screenings, and stuff like that. So that's, you know, I can't really do a whole lot during that time, but we've started, I've got the script and started sort of just the development side of things.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, we'll see. I mean, hopefully, you know, spring of next year, something like that. If all goes according to plan, that would be my dream situation, is would be on set around that time.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't like downtime. You know, I like to, this is exciting, and I love that everyone's excited about Candycorn, but like, I'm so ready to just like give it to everybody, you know, like, not that I'm tired of it. I still love it. I could watch it like every screening we do. I still love it. I love, especially with an audience, right? You know, seeing when people laugh at Gus, or, you know, they rooting for Jacob, or like laughing at, you know, Dr. Death's comments and cheering for him. And like, I just love that. It's so amazing to experience that with a crowd. But I don't know, as corny as it sounds, I'm kind of like, I've literally done every single thing I can to this film. I love it so much. There's things I hate about it because we didn't have enough money. We didn't have enough time. That's just life. But given what we had, time and money wise, and all the stuff we were, you know, had all the stuff, you know, that we was like, we were stacked up against. I'm so proud of it. And I'm just like, here, take it, people, you know, enjoy it, hate it, whatever. You know, and I wrote Candycorn as a trilogy. I have 2 other scripts. Okay. It's not what I'm going to do next. I want to revisit it down the road, but I want to get it out there and let people see what people like, see, you know, what characters they like, and let it live and breathe, hopefully for as long as I spent creating it. Yeah, and then come back and revisit that world after some time has passed. But
hell yeah,
it feels good to be in this position, and
that's awesome.
Getting it out there.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, brother.
That's great.
Well, brother, we are about that time that we're going to start wrapping it up and start getting our our shout outs done and all that good stuff. So I apologize for my issues being on and off the show, coming back with a different name, you know, and a female and all. So you know, but yeah, I definitely appreciate you coming on, dude. It's been an honor, and I will have the other 2 catch me up with what happened.
Awesome. Just awesome.
And yeah, dude, we're absolutely ecstatic you took the time to come on your busy schedule, and I hope to see you at Monsterpalooza, and you and I can sit down and talk and you know, go over some stuff.
I'm gonna be jealous. I'm gonna be super jealous.
I know, we're gonna be over here like, you assholes.
Yep.
That's the advantage of living in LA, baby.
Yeah.
So,
all the cool stuff.
But yeah, so who is it, or what is it you want to talk about on the way out and promote, and you know, give special thanks to? Obviously, Rob Zombie and his team for helping you get through Candycorn, and you know. But yeah, let's talk about who you want to give special thanks to.
Yeah, I mean, you know, everybody that helped get it done. I mean, it was really a team effort, and it wasn't easy. And as calm and collected as I might seem right now, I'm not that way all the time. I have very specific way I want things done, and I still daily praise the people that put up with that and see the bigger picture. So, yeah, I mean, everybody that's been a part of it, they know who they are and they know how much I appreciate them. And, the big thing right now is just getting everybody to know that the film is available September 17th on VOD and Blu-ray. You can pre-order it now until the 17th, and it's like $12 off or something like that, almost half off, at Epic Pictures website. And we put a lot into that too. We had Rob Galuzzo was with Epic, and he's the one that actually acquired the film. Ryan Turek from Blumhouse saw Candycorn and really liked it, and told Rob, "Hey, you got to check this out. It would be perfect for Dread." Right. And then that's how it all happened really with Epic. And one of the big things that I want everybody to know with this is, like, Rob is a huge collector, like we all are. I mean, look behind you, like, it's just what our lives revolve around. And he sort of kick-started, let's make sure this physical release isn't just some half-assed thing. Let's make sure there's an amazing documentary. Let's do the commentary. Awesome. The packaging is great. It's something that, first and foremost, we wanted to be able to put on our shelves next to all 20 versions of John Carpenter's Halloween that we keep collecting every time they put out different artwork. Right. And all the other stuff. And so that's really important to me, because this is a film that wasn't easy to make. It was literally the opposite. And it was done because of a bunch of people who love horror and wanted to create an original horror film that we wanted to see in the world. And so the fact that we accomplished that is amazing, and I'm proud of that. We're all proud of that. But the fact that the physical release also reflects that same sentiment is huge. And so, I just want to thank, obviously, Rob for encouraging everyone at Epic to do that, because they don't do that with all their films. A lot of them go to VOD and that's that. But this is a film for horror fans, and a lot of the reviews have been about how it feels like Halloween, and it just is, an instant Halloween favorite. And that means more than I can ever say to me, or say to you how much it means to me. So yeah, just thanks to everybody who helped us get it done over the last 3 years, and everybody who's taking the time to check it out now. I mean, and telling everybody about it. It's incredible.
Yeah.
We are definitely going to be spreading the word. So again, we will let everybody know that it comes out on the 17th for hard release, and we will go from there. So every time you have an update or something, send it to us, and we will be happy to put it out.
Absolutely.
Thanks, man. Thank you.
So,
I appreciate you guys.
Absolutely. It was an honor. Mr. Lance Wagner, what do you have, brother?
Just wanted to say the Primetime Horror Show should probably be out by now, hopefully. Yes. Thad Timothy, Lansdale, and David Martin. Cat's out of the bag. They've got a show coming. So, and it's going to be good. We're going to talk about indie movies, indie music, cult stuff. It's going to be a good show. Guys are real funny. Damon Williams, Scott Williamson, James Blankenship for their nonstop support of the show. Roy Rose and Lisa Rose have a contest going on. Not sure how this – we'll probably see it like one drawing before this show drops. So – but they're going to have it all the way up to the Cult Classic Convention in February. And I think you go to the Cult Classic Convention website or Instagram, and you share it with like 4 people. It's easy to enter it, and you can win actual weekend passes, I believe, to the convention. So, but anyway, that's Roy Rose and Lisa Rose. They own the gas station, which was in the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and that's where everything falls off of the Cult Classic Convention. It's all them, all connected. Daryl Hook's been a real big guy that loves our show. He's Mr. Meat Hook on YouTube, and he has a group. It's funny we brought Halloween 3 up. He has a group on Facebook, Halloween 3 Lovers, and it's a great group. Everybody's real chill. C.W. Penny, Bradley Lynch, and Elsie Holt, who Elsie Holt was in Your Next. They have it's called Rantin' Raven Reviews, and it's on all platforms, YouTube, Spotify, all that stuff. Good stuff. They reviewed, I think, Friday the 13th, the original versus the remakes or something like that. It was really, really well done. Joe Ridgely and George C. Romero Pictures, Indie Brigade. Excellent show coming. They had a little bit of a glitch yesterday on they just wanted to talk about some things. had technical difficulties, but they're going to be up and running pretty soon. They're going to be good. Chris Attella does our music. Josh, dude's awesome. Matthew Price Thompson, he'll be doing your picture. He's awesome. MPT Graphics. And then just real quick, Billy Pond, Bill Burst Jr., and Parrish Rander's going to be on the show pretty soon. So we'll have 3 of the Circus of the Dead's mainstays on. And then at is it Whorehound right now in Indy, right? We were saying? Mm-hmm. Whorehound, PJ Starks, Drew Marvick, and Mitch Rafter, my buddies. They're all awesome.
Hey, brother, but by the time they actually see this, they'll have been gone.
They hooked me up.
I hope you guys had fun.
Yeah, I
hope you guys had fun.
And I love my co-host. I love my wife, who is the other producer off screen. Just got
Sam's back.
Just had a major surgery. She's doing great. All the good vibes that helped out. And Josh, thanks for being on. We love your movie. We are honored to get to be one of the first ones to see it. So
thank you. Yeah,
we got
thank
the link.
so
I was
much.
like, oh my gosh, we get to actually watch it.
Right?
that made me feel like bucket list type stuff. I'm sitting there looking at a Candycorn screener. I'm like going, yes.
So, that's all thanks to Melanie, my publicist.
Thank you, Melanie.
She was like, do you want to show it to anybody? I was like, yeah, to everybody. Send it. Awesome. I don't. Because we did a couple interviews and it was just like asking me questions about it. I'm like, I don't know what you want me to talk about. Like, watch the movie, So I love that you guys were able to see it and enjoyed it, and we could have a conversation.
And I'm going to own it as soon as I possibly can. I will have it in my player as soon as possible.
It'll be displayed behind you.
Right over there. The horror section's over there.
Good deal. Pre-order it now.
I got you.
Right.
Thanks again, Josh.
Thank you, guys.
Miss Rhiannon, what do you got, sweetheart?
I want to thank you, Josh, for coming on. We've been super excited to have you on here. You've been great. Your movie is so good. Are you pointing at me?
He's right over there.
See, he's over here on my side.
He's down there for me.
Thank you so much for taking the time to come on. I want to thank my co-hosts. Without you guys, again, we wouldn't have this show. Everybody that you mentioned, Lance, we love them all. They're part of our horror family. Aaron Lee with Crazy Ink Publishing. My book is out now on paperback. Well, one of them. Yeah. And then pre-order for Kindle is out. So Broken Halo by Rhiannon Nicole. And that's it.
Yay!
Awesome.
So, all right. Now I want to give a special shout out to Matthew Price Thompson, who is our graphic artist for the show and also my film Normal Terror. Any of the artwork you've seen me post on my page or on my production page, Sacrificial Pawn Productions, is done by him. So thank you, Matthew Price Thompson. Love you.
He's
and,
amazing.
Thank you guys for being my co-hosts. I couldn't do this without you guys, and I wouldn't want to do this without you guys. I love you guys to death. You guys are amazing. You guys are wonderful. Josh, thank you so much for coming on the show. It has been an absolute blast, even with my technical difficulties. And
for the 5 minutes you were on.
Right? Yeah, for the whole 5 minutes I was on, it was wow, dude. I'm just blown away. So, but I will get to see a copy of this before it releases. So I get to be one of those inside guys. But no, thank you so much for coming on. Thank you to your publicist for, working back and forth with us so that we can get this done. And it's been an absolute pleasure. So you guys, thank you. Love you. And we'll talk at you soon.
Thank you guys very much.
Bye, guys.